Hello, my name is Manuel Anaya. Today I am a LADAC counselor. I was born and raised in Santa Fe. I grew up on Alto Street. This is where the Boys Club is. I started going there when I was about 13 years old. My mother thought it was a very safe place for me to be. Little did she know that this were where the gangs and the drugs were. When I was about 14 years old, my friend's older brother came to visit from California. He was a drug dealer. He introduced me to heroin and cocaine. From that day forward, it was on. This is when I started my life of crime. By the age of 15, I was sentenced to 3 years in the boys' school in Springer. We continuously used drugs every time we got a chance. When I was released, I was given a state release. I could no longer return to Santa Fe. I had to leave to California. I moved to San Jose, California with my older sister and brother-in-law. But my brother-in-law and I never got along, so I ended up in Los Angeles, about 500 miles away from San Jose. At that point, I was homeless, living in my car. Any money I got from hustling or stealing would go straight to my addiction. I was incarcerated several times and in and out of jails during all the years that I lived in Los Angeles. My last arrest there was for armed robbery with a gun. The only reason I beat that charge was because the witness never showed up. The story of my addiction began immediately when I experimented with drugs. I believed I used drugs mainly because of peer pressure and to be accepted. In some strange way, it seemed to be cool to be among the so-called in crowd. Little did I know this was going to be my downfall. My addiction began to affect my lifestyle immediately. Please don't think that this is a cop-out, but I was a product of my environment. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. That is why I hit the streets at such a young age. I grew up in the hood, the bad part of Santa Fe. It didn't take me long to become a gang member. I was around fellow gang members, ex-convicts, addicts, alcoholics, and gangsters, and so on, all the years of my addiction, which was over 25 years. My addiction robbed me of my personality, pride, morals, dignity. But interestingly enough, I would not change my past. This was my cross to bear, and the worst part of my addiction, besides the physical part of it, was the things that I was involved in order to obtain my drugs. I knew I would regret everything that I was doing someday, but I did it anyway. Addiction is hard to explain, but it seemed that I was even lonely in a crowd when I lived in LA. Addiction took away my hopes and dreams and turned my heart black. I really don't know how I was able to manage and handle my addiction, but I am grateful to God for still giving me life. I feel I should have died a long time ago, but for some strange reason, I am still here after numerous overdoses and 4 gunshots. I do not know where my journey will continue to take me. One thing I know for sure is that I will never go back to drugs again. I went from loving drugs to hating drugs and what they did to me. I tried many times to manage my addiction, but I couldn't. I was hooked big time. But I do know that if I can stop doing drugs after 25 years of addiction and have remained sober for come 19 years, Christmas Eve, that anybody can remain sober. Never underestimate yourself. With the help of our higher power, which I choose to call God, anything is possible. Sobriety is worth it. You have to want it bad enough. As an addict, you can succumb to your addiction, or you can choose to do whatever changes are necessary to beat it. Just use the same hustle you used to score drugs to remain sober. Remember, the power lies in you. You can make recovery occur if you want it bad enough. A person does get tired of being sick and tired. It gets old living this way. The only way to come out of your addiction is to hit bottom. On a typical day at 2 in the morning, while my 2 sons and wife are fast asleep, I am in the living room shooting up drugs. It was a 24/7 thing with me. If I ran out, it was not unusual for me to leave the house at that hour and do what I needed to do to get my fix. There was almost nothing I wouldn't do for that drug. My wife, on several occasions, would get up and find me on my hands and knees looking for cocaine on the carpet, which I swore I had dropped. One night, she got up and she found me removing the cover plates, the light switches, and the plugs in my house because I could have sworn I had hid some there. I was completely paranoid at this time. I was a tweaker. One night, I was looking through the carpet and I saw a lot of white powder in the carpet, and I gathered it all up and injected it. It turned out to be tortillas and crackers. I was always in a paranoid state. I would never leave my house without a gun. I have been shot 4 times by 3 different people. These were all either gang or drug related. Therefore, I wouldn't have a problem using my gun if I had to. I was totally out of control at this point. I didn't even think of stopping my drug use. To me, 2 o'clock in the morning was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The last time I used heroin and cocaine was on Christmas Day, 1989. I was home about 12:30 a.m. It was Christmas Day. I had been using drugs all day as usual, but this time I was not only a drug addict, but a drug dealer. My wife and 2 sons had gone to Santa Fe to visit with her family. We were living at Alcalde. I was supposed to meet them at my in-laws after they came out of midnight mass. I shot up another John Belushi and started to feel strange. I immediately knew I had taken too much. I went to the bathroom and sat in the bathtub wearing my brand new Christmas presents. I sat down on the bathtub and turned on the water. One of my customers had come to buy drugs, but I wouldn't come out. He really needed a fix and saw all the lights on. He looked in the bathroom window and saw me. He drove me to the Espanola hospital, but he didn't take me inside. He kicked me to the curb. But someone saw him drop me off. They took me inside the hospital, and I was treated and released hours later. Needless to say, I never made it to meet my wife and sons that night. I had overdosed on many occasions, but I feel this one almost took my life. I was tired of being an addict, a bad father, a bad husband. I was no longer the person I used to be. The only thing that mattered to me was drugs. My wife, mother, father, kids were tired of seeing me this way. During my sobriety, I have lost both of my parents, but I have never gone back to using drugs. During my sobriety, it was my first day of my new life. The sun finally came out again. Thank God. I only wish my parents could have seen me sober, but they never did. What helps me today is the fact that I work with addicts daily. This is a very rewarding and gratifying job for me. When I was an addict, there were no programs or counselors available. All there was jail. I feel fortunate to have a job that I like, but I have to admit that you see a lot of sorrow and misery in counseling. I have gone to a lot of funerals in the past 10 years, but I have also gone to a lot of graduations, weddings, and so on. Equally as valuable to me as my college degree and my LADAC license is my Sidewalk University. I am able to establish a rapport with clients quickly, and they trust me. They know that I have been there and done that. We are not bad people. We are just good people doing bad things. In my experience, I have worked for 4 years at New Moon Lodge in San Juan Pueblo. It is a residential alcohol and drug treatment center. I also worked a couple of years for healthcare for the homeless in Santa Fe. I also was privileged to be the drug court counselor for almost 2 years in Espanola. And 10 years ago, I am proud to say that I started NA meetings in Espanola when there was none. Today, they're still active at New Moon Lodge, and the meetings are great. What helps me today is that I know I am doing something worthwhile for the community. Before I was the menace to society. Today I am very fortunate to have my own office and I am my own boss of sorts. Kathy Brow is the director of a program called Inside Out, and I am the coordinator. And we are a nonprofit organization in Espanola. We offer free counseling, GED tutoring, women's support groups, AA meetings, and there are no fees for our services. Thank you very much.